Well, I'll start by saying that if the first movie was a home invasion movie, the second one is a town invasion. So for me as a director, it was just an incredible chance to take a movie that starts in a kind of a claustrophobic, smaller setting, to take it to a totally different level, take it to an epic storytelling level, without sacrificing those qualities that we established in the first movie and the characters that we established. So it was an amazing opportunity to take Maya on this much bigger journey on a much bigger canvas.
I'd say I'm excited for people to see Maya in a different capacity. In the first film, she was more of a victim, and in the second film, she's learning how to survive in a different capacity. And she goes through some very rigorous stuff, and she comes out of it the other side for the most part. So it's really interesting to watch that character, get pushed so far, and what happens with that.
I would say I agree with what they both said, and I would say I'm very interested to start delving into a little bit of the background of the strangers, and especially in the way we chose to do it. Obviously, it's a hot topic question and thing, and so we sort of made an active decision that they would always remain random act of violence killers, and so you would never actually get to meet those individuals as in who they are, as individual people, shall we say, but more that you would just sort of get to learn a little bit of what made them what they are. And so I'm really interested to see that aspect of it play out, because we sort of take it to a certain point, and we think we did it in a way that everybody is going to be really okay, that's cool, and it didn't do anything to tarnish what the original thing was.
Courtney, before we start to dig too deep into Chapter 2 story details, I kind of want to revisit the idea that this is a film trilogy. You kick this off as a trilogy, which one doesn't happen very often. And then on top of that, you opted to film these movies back to back to back, pretty much overlapping. Can you tell us why the original idea demanded 3 movies, and also how you came to the conclusion that the best way to make them was filming them together?
Sure. So we were all big fans of the original Strangers, Brian's Strangers. And the idea of, there was Strangers Prey at Night, which was sort of like its own sequel, and I'll call it another Stranger's story. So it was a family in a trailer park, and obviously the Strangers. Technically, you could call that a sequel. Sort of looked at it and said, I wish we could sort of reverse the clock and, make Liv Tyler 16 years ago again, and just sort of delve into what happened the next day, right? And in what happened the next day, do it in a way that the strangers are coming back. So we were still with the same character. And thirdly, to just stick with what it was and how realistic the original one was, that maybe there was an opportunity to explore a final girl in a different way than we had seen a final girl before. And to look at the final girl and say, usually in horror movies, and we all love them, so I'm not dissing this at all, but, by the end of Act 1, they're killing everybody. They were a nun at the beginning of the movie, but by the end of Act 1, they were killing everybody, and they're going all the way through the movie. But we have tons of fun with those movies. But if this really happened and you were trying to stick with realism, who would really do that of normal people out there? How hard would it be to get you to that point? And what horrible, lack of a better word, stuff would have to happen to you to take you there? And so we looked at it and said, we'd like to sort of create the ultimate final girl and actually explore that process just over a couple of days. So that's really why we thought it had to be a trilogy, because that took time to do, right? It couldn't be done in one movie properly. And then the idea to shoot it all at once, went right with that. It was a natural. I mean, we're telling the whole story. It's a giant movie. It's one storyline, so we shoot the whole movie. That's basically it. That was where it came from.
It's ambitious, and Madeline, that gives you a lot of challenges to tackle. I'll give you a bit, I like my two-part question, so I'm going to do that again with you. What is a pro of filming all three of these movies back to back to back, but then can you also pinpoint a couple of challenges that you had to overcome to get the work done?
I would love nothing more. I'd say, we actually didn't shoot them back to back to back. For the record, we shot them all at the same time. So I would shoot chapter 3 in the morning and chapter 1 in the evening, which was absolutely insane. The pro was, I don't have to be this character, take 2 years off when the movie comes out and come back and walk into this character again. I had the privilege of staying Maya for 52 days straight, which made my job easier for the most part. The challenges were tracking where I was in the story as an actor and making sure my arcs were in the right places without making it too mechanical and calculated was a tough balance, but when I started looking at it as one long film, I was able to do my job better. And it kind of is one long film, we just broken it up into 3 chapters.
Something that we're going to get a taste of some of your work in this in a little bit. First though, Courtney and Rennie, I did really want to ask you about applying reshoots to Chapter 2, because truly one of my favorite things in this industry is demystifying reshoots, because I don't like that they have a negative connotation. It is par for the course, and they are purposely built into a schedule to make the end product even better. So can you two tell us a little bit about what it was like finishing Chapter 1 and then figuring out how to use your reshoot time to make Chapter 2 the best movie it can be?
Okay, I'll start by saying, first of all, I don't want to use the term reshoot because it applies that it just suggests that I did something wrong and I have to redo it. I have to fix it, and that was not the situation. We like to call them enhancements, and it's purely from listening to the audience. The first movie came out, and we got a lot of feedback from the fans and regular moviegoers and so on. And we realized that while we had crafted this 4.5-hour movie that we had broken into 3 chapters, there was definitely room for learning from the audience experience and also listening to the fact that the audience was interested in some things that maybe we were not exploring enough yet. And one of those, as mentioned before by Courtney, is the fact that people wanted to know more about the strangers. And like Courtney said, we are not saying what their names are and where they live and if they like lasagna, but we are telling something about their history, showing some glimpses to their history in the movie, which I think deepens those characters, makes them more interesting, but doesn't take anything away from the fact that these are real people. They could be anywhere around us, and the killings are totally random. So for us for a director to have this opportunity with the studio where they believe in your movie or movies so much that they say, okay, we had a great success with this first movie and we are willing to give you more money if you can tell us how you could even enhance this movie. To be able to go back and explore those things that you couldn't do before and have a little more time with your actors and the visuals that you want to create and the kind of scares you realize really work well and so on. It's an incredible privilege for a director, and that's why not just because of personal reasons, I don't call it reshoots at all, because that's not what it was about. It was about adding and enhancing the experience.
Courtney, you want to add anything about enhancing the film?
So the enhancements, and we like to call it that, and I agree with Rennie 100%. We learned, it's an interesting thing because we shot all 3 at the same time. We were actually just finishing 2 at the time that 1 came out. And then we had the privilege of seeing the reactions of the audience, seeing a whole bunch of information, what people liked, what they didn't like, what they wanted, what they hoped to see, where they hoped it was going, so on and so forth. And you don't usually get that opportunity when you've already shot 3 movies, right? Usually you do the 1 movie, you see the results, and then maybe you go and write a sequel and spend another 3 years, and then you go do the sequel. But in this case, that wasn't it. So we sort of looked at that and we said, you know, and of course, thankfully the first movie did very well in the box office. So, you know, we went back to the studio and said, you know, we think we should do this, 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 and that. And they agreed with us. And so, I mean, I think that was really where it came from, was it came from everything we learned from all of you, you know, and it came from a desire to then, you know, satisfy what we saw were the commonalities of those comics, if you will, and other things that we even wanted to do ourselves. And so to me, it was a really rewarding experience, and you know, we actually did it for both Chapter 2 and Chapter 3. So we're very happy with it. Thank you.
Best thing to take that kind of time and resources and use it to make your movies even stronger. Madeline, I'm going to start to veer into story with you now, and because you filmed these all overlapping, this almost feels like an impossible question to answer, but when Chapter 2 kicks off, it's pretty much immediately after the events of Chapter 1. So what is it like, one, keeping the character consistent, so we believe that not much time has passed, but also we believe that she learned something from the events of Chapter 1 that she will then apply to Chapter 2.
Well, that's the beauty of shooting them all together, is like you don't lose the character because you're in it the entire time. I didn't have to take 2-3 years off and then come back to it, although we did do enhancements, so there was a little bit of that. In terms of making sure it feels like she's informed from what happened previously, like that's my job. You know what I mean? Like if something can happen in scene 1 of movie 1, and by scene 2 I have to know what happened in scene 1, but I could shoot that second. So that's part of just your training, I guess, as an actor.
Can you maybe tease specifically how she fights back in Chapter 2 versus Chapter 1, given what she learned about going up against the strangers?
She definitely has a lot more gusto in movie 2 and a little bit more confidence. She's smarter, and I think she's a little bit more attuned to their system and the way that they operate. She's definitely not sophisticated, but she is a fighter, and I love that girl. She's a little fighter.
She is. Of course, she Chapter 1.
Have you seen Chapter 2 yet? Did you get a screener?
I'm not saying anything.
Well, I'll just say there's a scene, you guys, where she does some crazy stuff. That's all I'll say. Thank you so much.
Accurate. You'll also get to see some pretty crazy stuff in the clips we have today. I love this first clip, actually, because I think it's a standout performance beat from you. Let's roll our first clip from The Strangers Chapter 2.